I still remember the exact moment she looked me in the eyes and said it, for words that ripped through me like a knife. "You're not enough, man." And the worst part? She didn't even flinch when she said it. No hesitation, no softness. Just cold, sharp, and final. You know, it's crazy how a single sentence can change the way you see yourself. Up until that night, I thought things between us were solid. We laughed together, we made plans for the future, we even argued in that playful, dumb way couples do when they care too much. But behind all of that, she was holding back something much heavier. I wasn't her first choice. That's what I realized later. And maybe I was never even in her top 3. The truth is, I've never been the kind of guy to stand out. Not the tallest. Not the strongest. I don't walk into a room and make heads turn. I'm just me. And for the longest time, I thought being me was enough. But that night, she made sure I knew it wasn't. Not for her, at least. Her words kept echoing in my head on the drive home. Not enough man, not enough man. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, trying to focus on the road, but my chest felt like it was caving in. I replayed every moment we had together, every smile, every "I love you," wondering if all of it was just a lie she told herself until she couldn't anymore. But here's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't just sit quietly in the corner. No, it grows. It festers. And it makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself. The craziest part? Just when I was starting to believe her words, to let them carve a permanent mark on me, someone else stepped in. Someone I never expected. Her sister. Now, before you jump to conclusions, let me back up. I never saw her sister that way. She was always just the sister. You know how it is, family cookouts, holidays, birthdays. She'd be there, but never more than a quick hello or a polite smile. She was background noise in the soundtrack of my relationship. But the moment my ex tore me down, her sister looked at me completely differently. Like she'd been seeing something I couldn't see in myself. Like she'd been waiting for me to realize it too. And what she said to me that night, it flipped everything upside down. Because while one sister told me I wasn't enough man, the other leaned in, locked eyes with me, and whispered something I'll never forget. But I'll get to that. All I can say is, that was the night my life split into 2 paths, the one I thought I was supposed to be on, and the one I never saw coming. And trust me, the path I ended up taking, it shocked everyone, especially her. When I first met her, it felt like one of those movie moments. Unexpected, almost too good to be real. I wasn't looking for love, not really. I was just a guy trying to keep his life together, working long hours, coming home tired, convincing myself that one day all the effort would pay off. Then she showed up, all charm and confidence, like she already knew she had the power to change the whole room just by walking in. And she did. I'll admit it, I was hooked from day one. She had this laugh that made everyone around her lean in closer. The kind of smile that made you forget what you were even talking about. When she gave me attention, it felt like winning the lottery. I wasn't used to being noticed, not like that. So when she chose me, I told myself I was lucky. I told myself I had to hold on, no matter what. Her family, well, they were different. Loud, opinionated, the type that filled every room with energy. I was quieter, more reserved, but they welcomed me in, at least, that's what I thought. Her sister, though, she was always harder to read. Not unfriendly, just distant. The kind of person who observed more than she spoke. I never thought much of it. She was just the sister, someone in the background of the story I thought I was living with her. The relationship itself wasn't perfect. Nobody's is. But somewhere along the line, little cracks started showing. She'd tease me in ways that didn't always feel like jokes. Compare me to other guys, stronger, richer, smoother. At first, I laughed it off, thinking that's just how she was. But those little digs started stacking up, one after another, until they didn't feel so little anymore. I'd find myself staring in the mirror at night, wondering if she was right. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I was just a placeholder until she found the man she really wanted. But every time I thought about leaving, she'd pull me back in with just enough sweetness, just enough attention to keep me hooked. It was like she knew exactly how far she could push me before I'd break. And I kept holding on. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You fight for them. You prove yourself, even if you're not sure what you're proving. But deep down, I think I knew. I think I knew the day was coming when she'd finally say out loud what she'd been hinting at all along. And when she did, when those 4 words fell from her lips, they cut deeper than I ever imagined. The thing is, She wasn't the only one watching me break that night. Her sister was there too. Quiet. Still. Eyes locked on me in a way that felt almost too intense. And later, when everyone else had gone, she stepped closer. And that's when everything started to change. The night she told me I wasn't enough, it wasn't some big dramatic fight. That almost made it worse. We weren't yelling. We weren't even arguing. It was just quiet. She looked at me, calm as ever, and said it like she was stating a fact. Like telling me the weather. You're not enough, man. I froze. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard her. But the look in her eyes told me I hadn't. It wasn't anger, it was disappointment. That kind of disappointment that makes you feel smaller than you ever thought possible. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to demand an explanation, to fight for myself. But nothing came out. My chest felt hollow, my throat tight. All I could do was sit there, listening to the silence stretch between us, louder than any scream. She didn't take it back. She didn't soften it. She just grabbed her phone, distracted herself with scrolling, like I wasn't even in the room anymore. That's when I realized maybe I never really had her at all. I left without another word. The drive home was a blur, streetlights streaking past like I was moving through someone else's life. Her words kept looping in my head, each time sharper, like they were carving into who I thought I was. And yet, one thing kept tugging at me. The way her sister looked at me when it happened. She was sitting in the corner, quiet like always. But when those words fell, she didn't look away. She didn't smirk or nod in agreement. No, she stared at me like she felt the blow too. Like somehow, she understood what that did to me. I tried to ignore it, but the memory followed me. That look, that intensity. The next time I saw her, it was different. She wasn't distant anymore. She walked right up to me, close enough that I couldn't avoid her eyes. And there was no pity in them, no judgment either. Just something else, something I couldn't name. And then, just as I was about to ask what she wanted, she leaned in, close enough for only me to hear, and whispered 4 words of her own. Words that flipped my entire world upside down. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it hit me harder than a scream. 4 words. Simple. Direct. And yet, they carried weight, like they'd been sitting on her tongue for years, waiting for the exact moment to break free. I froze. My chest tightened, my palms went sweaty. I searched her face, looking for a hint of sarcasm, some sign that this was a cruel joke. But no. Her eyes were steady, her lips trembling ever so slightly, like even she couldn't believe she'd finally said it. And in that second, everything around us disappeared. The sound of the TV in the other room, the faint hum of traffic outside, even the bitter echo of her sister's words. All of it faded, leaving only the pulse in my ears and the question pounding in my head. Why would she say that to me? I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. My mind was spinning, tangled between the wreckage of what my ex had just done to me and the strange, almost dangerous spark I felt now. Her sister shifted closer, and suddenly I realized just how close we were standing. Too close. I could smell her perfume. Subtle, nothing flashy, but it lingered in the air like it belonged there. Her eyes didn't move from mine, and the silence between us felt heavy, charged, like it was daring me to react. My heart was racing. I kept telling myself, this isn't right. This is her sister. The same sister I'd passed plates of food to at family dinners. The one I'd barely exchanged more than a few polite words with. This wasn't supposed to happen. But then I remembered the way she looked at me that night. The way she didn't flinch when my ex tore me apart. The way her stare lingered just long enough to make me wonder if she'd been seeing me differently all along. And now this. Her whisper played on a loop in my head, each repetition louder, clearer, until it was impossible to ignore. I wanted to ask her what she meant. I wanted to demand answers. But my throat locked up, and all I managed was a shaky, "Why?" She smiled. Not a big smile, just the smallest curve of her lips, like she knew something I didn't. And in that moment, I swear it felt like she could see straight through me. Past my doubt. Past my pain. Straight into the part of me I'd been trying so hard to hide. The tension between us was unbearable now. My hands itched to do something. Anything. But I was frozen in place, waiting for her to explain. Waiting for her to either shatter me completely, or give me something I never thought I'd hear. She leaned even closer, her lips just inches from my ear. And then she said it. But not yet. Because before her words could sink in, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Her sister, my ex, was coming back. The sound of her footsteps grew louder, and panic shot through me. I stepped back, but her sister didn't move. She stayed close, eyes locked on me like she wasn't afraid of being caught. In fact, she almost looked like she wanted it to happen. The door creaked open, and there she was, my ex. Her face froze when she saw how close we were standing. Her eyes darted between us, sharp, suspicious, calculating. "Am I interrupting something?" she asked, voice laced with venom. I opened my mouth to explain, but before I could, her sister spoke first. And what came out of her mouth wasn't just bold, it was nuclear. "You don't deserve him," she said firmly, her voice echoing in the room. "Because while you've been tearing him down, I've been the one building him up." My ex's face twisted in shock, then fury. But before she could snap back, her sister delivered the blow that shattered the air between us. "You think he's not enough, man? Then maybe you should know. He was never meant for you in the first place." The room fell silent. And in that silence, I realized everything I thought I knew was about to explode. The room was thick with silence, the kind that makes every second feel heavier than the last. My ex stood frozen, her mouth slightly open, like she couldn't believe her own sister had just said that. I was frozen too. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't asked for it. But now, the words were out in the open, and there was no taking them back. "You what?" my ex finally hissed, her voice trembling with rage. Her sister didn't flinch. She stood taller, her eyes steady, almost defiant. "You've treated him like nothing. Like he's disposable. But you're wrong. He's more than enough. More than you ever deserved." Every muscle in my body tensed. I wanted to stop this before it got uglier, but another part of me, one I barely recognized, felt a strange sense of justice. For the first time, someone was standing up for me. My ex's eyes darted to me, searching for some kind of betrayal. "And you? Is this what you wanted all along?" I opened my mouth, but before I could answer, her sister stepped in again. "Don't blame him. Blame yourself. You pushed him away." The tension snapped like a rubber band stretched too far. My ex stormed across the room, her voice rising. "You think you can just take what's mine? You think he'll choose you?" Her sister didn't back down. "No," she said, her voice calm but cutting. "He'll choose for himself." All eyes turned to me. My chest pounded, my throat dry. This was it. The moment everything came crashing down. And just when I thought I knew what I was about to say, the twist came. Because instead of choosing between them, I heard my own voice, steady, clear, surprising even me, say something I never imagined I'd have the courage to speak. "I'm not choosing either of you." Both of them froze. I spent too long letting someone else decide my worth. I continued, my voice shaking but strong. "I don't need one sister to tear me down or the other to build me up. I need to stand on my own." The shock on their faces was almost surreal. My ex looked furious. Her sister looked heartbroken. And me? For the first time in a long time, I felt free. But freedom comes with consequences. Because the moment I walked out that door, I had no idea what, or who, was waiting for me next. The night I walked out of that house, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel like I'd won anything. If anything, I felt empty, like I had just left behind two versions of myself I could never go back to. On one side was the version who had spent months, maybe years, trying to prove himself to someone who never really saw him. On the other was the version who almost fell into the arms of someone who did, but not for the right reasons, not at the right time. And standing between them was me, the real me, the one I had almost forgotten about. For days, I kept replaying everything in my head. The words my ex said, the way her sister whispered to me, the way they both looked at me when I finally spoke up. It was messy, painful, but somewhere in all that chaos, a truth started to rise to the surface. I didn't need either of them to define my worth. The truth is, I had been so desperate for validation that I let one woman chip away at me and another try to rebuild me. But neither of them could do the job that only I was meant to do. And once that clicked, it was like the weight finally lifted. I started small, taking time for myself, going on runs, not to prove anything, but just to feel the air in my lungs. Picking up old hobbies I had abandoned when I thought I had to devote all my energy to making someone else happy. Reconnecting with friends I had drifted from. And slowly, piece by piece, I started feeling whole again. Funny thing is, people noticed. Not because I was louder or flashier, but because I carried myself differently. I wasn't chasing approval anymore. I wasn't begging to be seen. I was just being me. And for the first time, that really was enough. As for them, my ex moved on, the way she always does, looking for the next thing to make her feel bigger. Her sister, well, she tried reaching out a couple times. But I knew that if I let myself fall into that, it would only be because I was still looking for someone else to tell me who I was. And I couldn't go back to that place again. So I didn't. Looking back now, I realized that heartbreak was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because it led me to someone else, but because it forced me to find myself. So if there's one thing I'd tell anyone listening, it's this. Never let someone else measure your worth. If they can't see it, that's on them, not you. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing you can say isn't, "I choose you." It's, "I choose me." And that's a choice I'll never regret.